Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick. How is everyone? We have another reveal article for Wave 2 of X-Wing 2nd Edition, this time on the TIE FO, the sort of baseline platform for the First Order. And that is important to realise because we have to remember that the First Order does not have access to the TIE Fighter like it did in the First Edition. It's now a completely separate faction to the Empire. So the FO Fighter is now the swarm platform if indeed the FO is going to be able to field swarms at all. And that means that FFG can play around with the design a bit more. It's no longer redundancy for the TIE Fighter, it's playing in completely different design space. And as such, we have a few pilots in this article that actually play off a lot of the same design that the TIE Fighter does, which is really interesting. Now, before we saw this article, we did have a couple of these pilots revealed. Just after Gen Con, there was the article on the First Order, and we had in that article revealed Muse and Midnight. And in this article, we have 6 more named pilots revealed. 8 in total, and it also reveals that we have 9 unique pilots. So there is one more that we will see once people actually get to crack open these expansion packs or conversion kits, so I'll be curious to see what that is. Also in this article, we have revealed the 3 generic pilots. The Epsilon Squadron Cadet, Zeta Squadron Pilot, and Omega Squadron Ace at Initiative 1, 2, 3, respectively. And because of the nature of 2nd Edition pilot cards, we can't see which of these have talents. I'm going to guess it's just going to be the Omega Squadron Ace, but who knows. Usually when FFG put out multiple generic pilots, and the second to lowest does not have a talent slot, it's often useless because there's no point investing extra squad points when the difference is only like Initiative 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. When we're talking about really low initiative, that doesn't really make much of a difference. However, in this case, with the Zeta Squadron Pilot, there does seem to be a bit of a purpose in trying to get your FOs up to Initiative 2. If that works out point-wise and you can field a swarm in Initiative 2, there is one pilot that combos quite nicely with that. In fact, let's go through these named pilots right now, all the ones that weren't previously revealed. And starting off with the pilot I just mentioned, TN3465 at Initiative 2. While another friendly ship performs an attack, if you are at range 0 to 1 of the defender, you may suffer 1 critical damage to change one of the attacker's result to a critical damage. And I was trying to think the best way to apply this. I really do think it's probably just an FO swarm, but there is an argument to make that this could work quite well with the Upsilon class shuttle because it has so many red dice. But I think if we can get a swarm of FO fighters, there's a good chance that this will see a bit of play. Kind of reminds me of Wampa on the Empire faction that just wants to fly alongside a bunch of initiative matched TIE fighters. And I think this is very much playing in the same space. If you can get a whole heap of Initiative 2 FOs, even a bunch of Initiative 1s, we'll wait and see. Perhaps it's just not worth investing in Initiative 2, but if there is a reason to do that, I think this is pretty much going to be it. A pretty decent payoff for swarms. It is very high variance, I will say, which seems to be very much in keeping with what the First Order and the Resistance want to do. It's kind of like high variance but high power as well. Look, you don't always want to give your ship a crit, but if this guy is relatively cheap enough, trading off a crit for situationally a guaranteed crit against your opponent is a very powerful thing to do. And I think ultimately the main power level call with this is going to be how cheap it is, because the cheaper this pilot is, the more you're trading up on damage. Alright, let's continue moving through these named pilots in the order that they appear in the article. Next we have at Initiative 4, Scorch. While you perform a primary attack, if you are not stressed, you may gain 1 stress token to roll 1 additional attack die. And before I want to say anything else, this art is friggin' cool. I really dig that. And this is not a swarm payoff. This is just a bit of upside and a potent ability. Initiative 4, kind of sitting well below Ace territory in terms of where these guys want to sit. Very difficult to arc dodge in Initiative 4, so I think this guy is going to have to be relatively cheap to kind of justify this ability. It's really nothing special. If you want versatility out of platform, gaining stress tokens isn't really what you want to do. But if it's flying alongside a swarm and you can overwhelm your opponent with targets, this is a bit of upside if they're unable to take it off the board early, so that's pretty cool. And in keeping with that theory, here's Initiative 3 Longshot. Why perform a primary attack at range 3, roll 1 additional attack die. Oddly enough, I actually like this better in terms of ace potential than Scorch, because this guy gives you versatility, and versatility is a great thing for aces. Now at Initiative 3, he's not going to arc dodge, but again, if it's a cheap enough platform and you can get enough of these on the board, it's a pretty decent pilot ability, because it throws 3 red dice at range 3 and range 1. It's worth pointing out that range 3 has a much bigger scope of attack. It's much easier to hit your opponent at range 3, and for that reason, this just feels very, very relevant. Now again, we have generics at initiative 3, so maybe this guy with a couple of those is going to be potent. Flying them in formation could be a lot of fun. Again, it'll come down to the points, blah blah blah, as I always say with these articles. But I do like this. I think it'll be relevant at the right cost. Static, which is the reprint of Omega Ace. While you perform an attack, you may spend a lock on the defender and a focus token to change all your results to critical results. Initiative 4, just the same as he was in first edition. And it's a cool ability. I kind of feel like in first edition there were better ways to cheat this. There's no targeting synchronizers. There's no ways to sort of cheat on target locks. Fire control systems have changed. Not that these guys could take fire control systems, but yeah, I feel like that's going to make this ability a lot harder to work with. We don't have advanced optics in the same sense that we did in first edition. That means you can keep focus tokens after the round's end. So there isn't really a great way to sort of abuse this. Having said that, yes, this is second edition. Modifying attack dice is not as easy as it was in first edition. And again, this is still a significant amount of upside. So this could do well with the right kind of play. I will say though that we have spoken previously about the Upsilon class shuttle, and there are some interesting ways to sort of cheat on a bit of action economy onto your FOs. I've talked about this with General Hux already. And that could be potent with this alongside it. Getting out target locks with a bit more relative ease, potentially target locking and focusing in the first turn, mean you can more consistently get this online. And I think to see any kind of meta play, there needs to be some amount of consistency with this. Otherwise, the pros just won't go for it. Back down to Initiative 1, we have Lieutenant Reavers. After a ship at range 1 to 2 gains a red or orange token, if you do not have that ship locked, you may acquire a lock on that ship. Now, it's worth considering this when we're talking about friendly ships because you can now lock friendly ships. However, unless I've missed something, the First Order doesn't have any reason to lock friendly ships, but it is worth thinking about if that does ever happen, if there's like a tech upgrade that gives you some kind of bonus for locking a friendly. But talking about your opponent's ship, you can get a free lock on them. That's pretty decent. Initiative 1 can match with those Initiative 1 generics in a swarm. Seems alright. There's a fair amount of incidental stress in the game right now, so it's not going to be too outlandish to think that this is going to trigger. I don't think it's going to be ultimately consistent, but again, if it's cheap enough, that's okay. If it's only like 1 or 2 points more than the generic, then you may as well chuck one of those in here. Another free target lock, another little bit of extra potent attacking can be a really powerful thing with a swarm. So that does feel pretty decent at the very least. Alright, here's something cool. Commander Malarious. At the start of the engagement phase, you may spend 1 charge, of which you have 2, and gain 1 stress token. If you do, until the end of the round, while you defend or perform an attack, you may change all of your eyeball results to evade or hit results. So this guy has 2 charges of Glitterstim. Now, I've already made the comment that Glitterstim probably is not going to appear in second edition because it is way too consistent in terms of improving the quality of ship's dice for an entire round. However, having it on a pile ability is not such a bad thing because FFG is able to control what platform it goes onto. This is a platform with only 2 red dice. One of the most powerful things with Glitterstim was it could modify 3 red dice, and that was really cool. At range 1, if it was taking shots and shooting back, Glitterstim was well worth the 2 points and the stress token. Also on the Scum faction, there were a lot of ships that really didn't care that much about getting a stress token. They could do these sort of built-out stress agnostic builds, and it didn't really matter, and you could sort of improve the upside of Glitterstim by not having as much downside. On a TIE FO, I just don't think that's the case. Taking a stress token is usually significant cost because this is the kind of ship that wants to arc dodge if it can. It is a relatively fragile platform, so having said that, Glitterstim is good on it, but it's not amazing. I think you'll use it in the situations that you have to attack and defend in the same turn. If you're really desperate and you really need to make sure you get those dice mods, less you'll probably lose Commander Malarious. I can see that being a very realistic thing to do. Again, alongside swarms, this could be good. I am curious about his potential to be an ace. Initiative 5 is playing around the same territory as what Luke Skywalker, Boba Fett, all those guys. So it's not completely out of the question. It's definitely a really good ability to have that kind of dice consistency, but it is a 2 of. You only get to do it twice during a game. Again, First Order, more variants, higher ceiling. And I dig that. I think this guy does have a chance of seeing meta play. I don't think this is going to appeal to the tournament grinders quite as much as Midnight, but I think it might just be up there. And that is it for this article, all the new info we have on the TIE FO. Now, while I'm here, guys, I'll make a quick announcement. For the next 10 days, I'm actually going on holiday in Japan, which I am so looking forward to. In fact, I have to put this video out and pretty much pack straight away because I'm going tomorrow morning. Now, while I'm away, there will be videos going out. We have all our Hangar Bay videos already recorded, produced, and uploaded. So on Sunday, they will be going out as per usual. Plus, in the next couple of days, I've also made a video on the top 17 from the Minok Open. So we'll talk about those lists and have a bit more of a chat about the meta. But in the meantime, it might be a bit harder for me to get back to comments and all that kind of stuff on social media and here on YouTube, so I apologize for that. But I'll be back before you know it. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Reddit. Please consider supporting our Patreon. Thank you so much to my existing patrons. I'll catch you guys in the next video.